What is up, all you real estate loving individuals? This is episode number 37 of the Real Estate Take Podcast, and I'm your host, Wendell Butler. This is your go-to podcast with tons of information regarding the current real estate market, where we get various real estate professionals' current take on different areas of real estate. For today's guest, we have Eddie Speed. Eddie Speed has over 40 years of experience in real estate note investing and has revolutionized the note buying industry through innovation and education. As the nation's top note buyer, Eddie has purchased over 50,000 notes and is a leading authority on wealth building through discounted mortgage notes. As the founder of Note School, he offers disciplined note investing education that has led to success for thousands of students. So let's bring on Eddie. Eddie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing well. Thanks for coming on. I love diving into more note investing. I think it's a topic that a lot of people don't quite understand, to be honest, but it is very lucrative. Not only that, but it's very secure, which is awesome. When you're talking about real estate investing, people love that. It's very passive, which is great. That's what everybody wants to do in real estate, is passive income, right? And you can get really creative with note investing. And especially in this market and this economy, I think there's a huge opportunity. I think there's always opportunity with note investing, but I think in this current climate, I think there's even a bigger opportunity. So it's awesome to have you on. And I know we read your bio, we learned a little bit about you, but I always like to start off just with you taking the floor, talking about who you are, how you got into note investing or just real estate as a whole, and just a little bit of your backstory. So take it away.
Well, I started a long time ago in 1980. So I was a young guy back then, 20 years old, and seller financing was really hot. And that was because of really inflation. So the economy drove seller financing way back then, and I got into it, just stumbled into a couple of guys that took me under their wing and taught me the business. I probably would have never made it if it wouldn't have been for that. And fast forward, I've been doing it for 45 years, closed a bunch of note transactions. About 25 years ago, I built a school. And so that's called Note School. And I basically teach people how to buy first mortgages in lieu of buying a rent house or invest in a syndication.
Awesome. So when you dive into your note investing, there's a lot of niches that go on with that. Some people buy unperforming notes, some people buy performing notes, some people like to just focus on certain assets that have liens on them. What is your niche? Like, what do you look into the most for note investing?
My niche is whatever the market tells me. I bought 10,000 non-performing notes. I bought reperforming notes. I bought seller financing. I've been doing it for 45 years. So you name it, I probably fished in that pond. But right now, overwhelmingly, the best opportunity that I see in the market today is buying just traditional performing first mortgages, primarily from seller financing. There's about 100,000 seller finance transactions created a year. And I think probably of those, there's about 20,000 of them really that are of the quality that we should target. And that's the loans that we target. So we think we're fishing in the best end of the pond. There's a mountain of landlords right now that hate their rent houses, aren't making many money. And so we have a system where we help landlords create notes, and we have a whole process that we put them through to essentially follow our recipe of how to make notes. And so that's what we do. And bottom line is, people say, well, compare a rent house to a note. Okay. Well, let's talk about time. In 2018, not necessarily in California and not necessarily in Toledo, Ohio, but in most markets, you could buy a rent house for cash and earn about 8% per year of the amount you invested in net profit, right? The cap rate, they call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take that same house in 2025, you're making 4%.
Yeah.
So who drank your milkshake? Inflation drank your milkshake. That's what happened. And so people are making 4% on a rent house, but yet they're borrowing money at the bank, own a rent house at 7.5% interest. What? You're going to make 4% and give the bank 7.5%. That doesn't seem like good math, does it? So that really is the thesis. And we saw that problem, and we've started realizing that we could buy first mortgages with a lot more cash flow, a lot higher return, with a lot less headaches, and even having a cushion factor with mortgages you wouldn't have with a rental. Because see, if I buy a mortgage for $200,000, the house might be worth $250,000 or $300,000. So I'm buying it with a cushion factor baked into the deal that I don't have in a rent property situation. Average income difference in investing in notes versus rentals is about 2.5 times plus. So 2.5 to 3% more income. Eddie, are you saying if I netted $1,000 on a rent house, like net income, not gross income, net income. If I netted $1,000 on a rental, I could net $3,000 on a note. Yes.
Yeah, especially I think you made some great points too, because especially in like today's market, the cap rate and the bank's interest rates have totally flip-flopped, right? So the cap rates that you're trying to get today, like you said, in a lot of markets, it's looking at like four caps, 5 caps, and then you go to the bank and you try to get a loan on it, and they're like, "Hey, we'll give you like 6%, 7%, 8%," and it's like that you can't make any money that way. It doesn't
No.
matter which way you
You
squeeze
can
it.
only borrow a very low amount. You can only borrow a very low amount of what the house is worth to make that loan debt service.
Yeah. So then you got to trap basically a lot more equity within your house, which kind of defeats the purpose of rent. Buying
Think
rental, you want to leverage as much as you can and make as much money as you can with rentals, right?
Think of it like this. Think of it in terms of you have an ear of corn. Okay. How do you make money with an ear of corn? Well, you can make corn soup. You can make corn dishes. You can make corn products out of it. You can make corn oil. You see what I'm saying? You can do all of those things with an ear of corn. What is the most profitable thing you could do with an ear of corn? Make an expensive whiskey.
Oh yeah, I forgot whiskey's made from corn. Some whiskeys.
So understand that most people are over there trying to eat an ear of corn, and I'm trying to make a bottle of whiskey out of it.
Yeah. So what if someone is like into rental homes, right? Or even a newer investor, they have no idea how to even get into note investing or even a first step to take or like how much money they need. They probably think you need to buy a first lien note. Like you're going to need a huge lump sum of money to get that first one. And then what do you do from there? Can you like explain just like some creative ways or creative options of how to get into it or what you normally do to like expand or scale?
So in my career, I bought 50,000 performing mortgages. Okay. And you ain't going to believe this, but I didn't fund all of those notes with the money in my wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You get the joke?
Yeah.
So the point is a mortgage is an asset, and there are leveraging techniques that are crazy effective that I can teach people how to do. So you don't have to go fund all the first mortgages that you buy with cash. And the key to the business and growing it and duplicating it and doing it over and over in a lot of cases is leveraging. And that's where 45 years experience is pretty valuable. Now, I don't have a whiteboard here today, and even if I did, it probably wouldn't be fair to the audience, but there's numerous techniques that I could use. Numerous, not one. There's numerous techniques that I could use that I could take a little of my money and somebody else's money and put that together and then buy first mortgages. I could make a cash flow over a period of time if I did it that way. I might just make no cash flow today, but I own a big backside of the note. I had 20-year note and I sell 12 years. And after 12 years, I get all of the payment every month for a very low dollar investment. And so those are different techniques depending on whether somebody's investing in a retirement account, whether they're investing with just their LLC and they're just trying to build cash flow. And so like there's not one answer, but there are multiple leveraging solutions so people don't run out of money.
Yeah.
It's an investing strategy. It's not flipping, right? It's not wholesaling houses. It's not that, but it's really, I think, the premier investment in today's economy related to real estate. I think buying performing first mortgages is the premier investment. I've tried it all. So it's not like I'm not familiar with other techniques or I'm not familiar with other products, but I just try to go pick the best market solution that it has right now. And really, to answer all of the questions of what caused it, honestly, it's inflation.
Yeah.
That's what drove high interest rates. It's what drove down the net income on rental properties. It's all because of inflation. So you're saying note buying does good when you have inflation? Yes.
Yeah. Now I have a question too. Like say when you were buying notes back in, you've been doing it for a long time and obviously 50,000 notes is quite a lot, right? Now back when the interest rates were like really, really low, were you buying those notes that were like low interest rates as well? Then how does that, like with the huge market change now, is it still beneficial to be holding those notes or you try to get rid of them and sell them? Like what goes on with that portion? Because that's one question that I have about note
Well,
investing.
the problem with most real estate investing today is people in a inflationary market where you need to earn a higher rate, people are earning a lesser rate on real estate investments. That's the opposite of solving the problem. So there are just simply markets where it is more profitable to be the bank than it is the landlord. That's today. So all we're doing is looking at it and saying, wow, I have a first mortgage on somebody's house. I don't own the house, but I own this loan and they owe me every month. And I can make a lot more money being the bank and collecting that interest than I can trying to manage the rental and doing all that and making a pretty minimal spread for the risk and the aggravation. And so I think that's where they are. And so I've asked this question. I've had a school for 25 years. So, I've spoke around the country a lot. Stuff. And I've asked this in front of, Lord knows, well over 100,000 people, right? If all things were equal, would you rather be a bank or the landlord? And in a room full of landlords, over and over and over, guess what they said?
Oh, it's got to be banking. Everybody wants to be a bank. That's the reason you try to make as much money as you can.
So what I've done is built a school showing a small guy how to be the bank. And I kind of have learned it one bite at a time over the past 45 years.
Yeah, awesome. The difference between note investing and owning a rental, one of the biggest differences is that you get with a note, I guess here's a question you probably get a lot, right? It's like, why would you want to note invest if you don't get advantage of like the appreciation of the house, like actually owning the house technically? When technically as a bank, you do own the house until they pay it off, like it's your house. But I'm sure you get that question a lot. How do you answer that question?
I'm not saying if somebody owned 100 rentals, maybe they don't go sell 100 rentals and owner finance them.
Yeah.
But they probably would sell 50% of them and owner finance them because the math would be so much better. And so there are tax advantages to rentals, although just remember depreciation is a tax deferral. It's not tax forgiveness. Mm-hmm. Right? You're going to owe the money down the road, right? Go ask somebody that has a rental today and they're going to sell it and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to do a 1031. Now I'm going to trade off into another property that's not making money. So the 1031 doesn't solve it doesn't fix the market cycle problem.
Yeah.
If you had a crystal ball and you said today, where is the residential real estate market headed? Now, I'm not saying we're headed to where we were in 2008, but there ain't nobody reporting out there that real estate has got some big lift in it.
Yeah.
Right now, there's always some guy in some little market and says, you don't know my thing. And I've already told people, if you've already decided in advance, I can fix it. But there's two things that people argue that make rentals great: depreciation and appreciation. Okay. So guess what? If I have an investment that pays me 3 times the net income of something I can depreciate and that might appreciate, I'll take the money today.
Yeah.
And mathematically, trust me, I get to a class and I start actually using a financial calculator and plotting out that math. It's undeniable.
Yeah. When you buy these notes, who do you reach out to buy them from? Are they banks? Are they specifically seller finance people that are just done holding the notes? Do you buy them at a discount to like give yourself even more cushion? How do you work around that? And then how do you look at like the property, make sure that it actually makes sense, that it's a good note to buy, and also the borrower, right?
All right. So let's first of all talk about how I find my customers. So I'm in 3 or 4 real estate masterminds that are the best known real estate house buyer masterminds in the country. So probably the top 500 house buyers, most of those guys are in one of those masterminds. You walk in that mastermind and you see Eddie Speed's name up there and they go, that's the note guy. So I've built a brand around being that guy in the top real estate investors. Most all of my clients today are real estate investors. I don't deal with mom and pops, the owner finance. I don't deal with note brokers trying to go that probably drop. If you've ever owned a note, somebody dropped you a letter and said you could sell your note, the odds are very, very high. That's just a note broker. It's a note flipper, a wholesaler.
Yeah.
I deal with people that I can deal directly with the customer and have an influence on how they create their notes, because they're going to create way better grade of note than somebody that's kind of making it up on their own. Right? Mm-hmm. Homemade notes don't mean necessarily best notes. So first of all, I try to influence my audience and influence who's going to go create notes. So I'm a coach in helping them create the best notes, right? That's primarily who I address as an audience. So when I buy a note from a real estate investor, I might buy 10 notes or 40 notes or 400 notes, right? I don't necessarily just try to go teach every real estate investor to do it one-on-one. Okay. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, like anything else in business, after decades, you develop risk profiles. whether you have it written or documented or whether it's instinctive. It's like, do you know more about driving than a teenager that's only been driving for 6 weeks? Okay. Now, I'm not saying you can do the same dumb things a teenager would and text when you shouldn't and whatever, and you're a bad driver just like them, right? But you instinctively know more about driving. You've seen more situations. You can see risk ahead, when to start reacting to things. You just so whether it's that you actually had a risk blueprint built out or you just had it in your head, then understand it's experience makes you smarter.
Yeah.
So what we've done is taken 45 years of experience and melted it down into a process so that we can predict the likelihood of delinquency and default amazingly accurately when we're looking at buying loans.
Got it. So most of these notes that you purchase are, since you only target investors, do they usually own the rentals outright and they just don't really know?
I would say the time when we buy loans, there's an underlying mortgage. Now, they may have just created the loan, but a decent percentage of the time when we buy a loan, there's an underlying mortgage, and we always pay that off.
Yep.
Every time, so that when we buy it, it becomes a first mortgage. So we do technically see people that submit wraps to us, but it's understood we're going to pay off the underlying mortgage. Sometimes it's a short-term private loan that's allowed them to wrap it or something. It's not necessarily they've done anything illegal or wrong in that process.
Yeah.
But we only buy first mortgages. We don't buy wraps. And today we are fortunate enough that we have technology companies that we deal with that represent like the biggest guys in the mortgage industry. And like we can order property valuations and it comes back in, and they have underwriting systems where they evaluate literally hundreds of thousands of property valuations a year, and they run spot checks and make sure the information is correct. So we're using like vendors with crazy technology today that just makes us more efficient than we were years ago when we just call some realtor and get a value across the country and stuff. So we can evaluate neighborhoods, risk variables, value trends, what it's worth, like what the likelihood this customer will pay promptly in the future. We can nail that to like a shockingly high number.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that comes with years of experience too, and just understanding, like, based on just repeatedly seeing certain borrowers, certain properties, certain areas, like where to invest the best and which kind of note to kind of put together as well.
15 years ago, we had our instincts, and now we have a lot of tools and technology and things that do the things now that we used to have to do. We used to have to just have a lot of gray hair in our office, just so instinctively we had experience looking at it, and we still have that. But now today, we're able to dial it down at a lot different risk variable than probably it was in the past.
Yeah. So when you buy these notes, you like to have your sphere of influence where you understand exactly, or teach them kind of how to create the best notes. Because when you purchase the notes, it's not like you can change the note and how it is structured, right? You're buying how it was originally structured. So that's a huge benefit to you, having kind of that sphere of influence to almost pre-create the note that you like to then purchase, right?
Think in terms of when I buy a note, the pie's already cooked.
Yeah.
I would sure like to help them with the recipe and how to make the pie.
Yeah. So if someone's creating a note, knowing they're going to sell it to you, like, how does that transaction look like, and how is it beneficial to them selling it? Like, what do they get?
You can't keep doing this business unless you can turn over your money. You have to recapitalize. You can't go finance 200 seller finance houses without an ability to recapitalize. What we represent is the recapitalization market.
Yep.
So there's various ways that the guy we're buying the note from might keep some of the payment on the loan, and that like he's collecting long-term income. And so I help my clients become their own bank. And then, but once again, they are always bringing me new notes to buy because I'm helping them monetize it. And you get off into, there's a lot of kind of myths about the business, or there's theories about the business that are different than realities, right? Like, people say, well, tell me what the average discount is. And I'd say, what's the average car worth? Like if you have really good notes, your notes are bought. They're bought maybe at a discount, but not a deep discount. If somebody brings me a note that's written in a real substandard way and has a lot of things in it, either rate's too low or the risk is too high or whatever, then that's a loan that gets bought at a pretty high discount. So I've targeted my business to go pay up for notes, but go pay up for really good notes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it is the loan that pays you back that will be the best to you in the future.
Yes, for sure. And your goal is always to hold these notes, right? You hold them for as long as
No, that's
possible.
when I built the school.
Yeah.
I built the school, so I got doctors and lawyers and school teachers and realtors and business owners and retirees, and they join Note School, and they want me to help them with our process of how to buy notes. Oh, by the way, they want me to help them go find notes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a process. So I've created a marketplace. I've got all these top real estate investors over here. I've got all these people with investable capital over here, and I show them how to get more money with using leveraging techniques. And so I'm driving this loan that I bought from the real estate investor over to this Note School guy that wants to buy that note that I found.
Yep.
I've created a marketplace.
Awesome. And explain for our viewers just like the process of buying the notes and kind of how, maybe give an example of a recent note that you bought or help someone purchase as well, and how that looks, and even broad numbers of like returns that they're looking to get and things like that, just so they understand kind of the math behind it. Because a lot of people just don't understand. They just don't get it.
My wife buys notes just like our Note School members. Mm-hmm. She buys notes that we find for her. We go out in the marketplace. We're super well known. So she comes in and buys these notes. We have 8 notes that she's buying right now. Okay. She's buying them in a self-directed retirement account. So she's immediately got 4 notes that she's going to use a leveraging technique on. So she's paying $100,000 for the note, hypothetically.
Yep.
And she's got an investor that will give her $96,000 for the first payments on that note. She bought a payment stream of like 20 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. She sold 12 years of the payments and got 96% of her investment back. She has $4,000 left in that deal, and she's going to collect $1,500 a month for 8 years on a $4,000 investment. Now, she didn't start today. She'd have to wait. And by the way, statistically, she knows that loan's going to pay off early. So she'll end up getting a large lump sum of money in some cases versus collecting the payments over time. But if you plug that in your calculator, what's the yield on that? It's insane.
Yeah.
$4,000 turns into $150,000. Do you really need a calculator? So that's a leveraging technique. So she buys these 8 loans. 4 of them she just buys and she doesn't leverage. We're in our 60s. And 4 of them she buys and she does a leveraging technique. So we don't need all that income today, thank God. And so she does kind of a hybrid. And those are 8 notes where she's paying $100,000 and the house is worth $140,000. Now you're saying, what's 140? I just used a round number. It's a nice looking house. Like I'd show you a picture of the house, or anybody listen to the podcast. Would you own a mortgage on that house? Oh yeah, I don't own a mortgage on that house. So it's good. It's nice looking houses. Yep. It's a real estate investor that does this on a super regular basis. They originated $50 million of seller financing last year. And that's a client of mine. Yeah. And I think when I talk to the owner of that business or some of his top people that work with him, they're like, Eddie's team is a partnership with us. They help us do the business better.
Yeah. Now, for people to dive into note investing and just learn a little bit more, like what does your coaching program provide? And like, does it help with just normal everyday people that just have no idea what note investing is, or is it for more experienced like investors that are looking to get into it? And then on top of that, like, do you have any books or things you would point people to kind of see if they'd be interested in it more, just to understand a little bit more before diving in?
So the best thing I can tell people to do, instead of just going generically to our website, which is fine, you can do that. You can go to noteschool.com and it's got good information. But what I would give your audience is kind of a package, which is I have like a question and answer book, like the most common 150 questions that we've ever been asked about the business. And here's the answer to the questions. We've got some spreadsheets where you can take Excel and like we've built in some framework where you plug in certain numbers and it shows you what it could look like. So you can play with the numbers. We've got some flow charts that shows like, here's the flow of a note. You can see how it kind of looks as it goes through its journey, right?
Yeah.
And then we've got what I call an opportunity class, which is really when people, Eddie said his wife did this. I'm like, okay, well, how does that really actually work? And so we'll go through in an opportunity class, like showing people how we do this.
Yeah.
And then they can decide like, I love this. This is great information. I kind of want to overgive people every step of the way. And then I love it. And then they want to come hook up with us and come to a 2-day class. And then whatever it is they want to do, we hope we can help them get there. And the reality is, who is your customer? Somebody that might have been buying rent houses or investing in syndications, or somebody that they could own one rent house or they could own 1,000 rent houses. I don't care. We have both.
Yeah.
But we serve an audience that says, I like real estate, but I don't like the math real estate is giving me today.
Yeah.
We serve that audience really well.
Yeah, which I think is huge in today's market because it's been a hard market for the past 3 to 4 years. It's been quite tough since COVID kind of inflated everything, and now people are feeling it. You see a lot of investors nowadays that like did really well during that. They can't even find a deal. They're losing money left and right on deals, especially people that got in during the inflationary time of COVID because everything was easier then. You could just buy a house and sell it the next day and make money. Nowadays you can't.
We all know there's just markets you can't make a mistake, and there's markets where you're more likely to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And I also tell people that like, look, everything in life changes. I used to have a BlackBerry and I love my BlackBerry, but I think if I had a BlackBerry today, you'd say the old guys lost it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the point, is that the markets change and there are things to do in various markets. So yeah, we built basically a little area in our thing where you can go see us. It's noteschool.com/real estate take. And there's a little registration page and you go in there and enter your information. It'll ask you for your cell phone number and your email. We'll send you some information kind of both ways, right? Some text, some email. So don't put in a bad email address.
Yeah.
And listen, if I've not sound salesy today, I'm never going to sound salesy. Like, this is just who I am. I'm a veteran. I do the business. I actively do the business today. I built a school showing students how to do what we actively do and helping them do the business, because once again, I find some of these notes and then they buy some of them. I don't sell all of them. I keep some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you a story today. Like, my wife's buying a package of 8 notes and I've got students that are probably buying 40 more. Right. So I keep some and I sell some, but I don't have a different litmus test for what I buy than what you buy.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, anybody that goes out of their way to perfect a craft and then find ways to help other people do it too, because it's an abundance mindset. That's what you got to have in real estate. There's so much deals, so much opportunity to go around. You can't get it all. So that's awesome that you provide the steps and the ability to let people get into it as well. So we're running out of time here a little bit, but I always like to leave this last question for you, just to open the floor for you. If there's anything else you just want to tell the audience, like how to reach out to you, if you have social media handles, if you have any meetups that you run or attend, charity, business links, or just how to contact you directly. Yeah, the floor is yours.
The best avenue we built is where we can build people a special lane and where we can really love on them nature. If I gave you my cell phone number, I'm going to be honest with you. When I hang up from this podcast, I'm in the note buying business.
Yeah.
Right? I really am a note buyer, and some person that wants to call and just chit chat with me, I need to build a process where they can see where it is. And I'm very focused on making it really time efficient for them. Like, I can give you this much information, but if I'm really good, I can compress it down and give it to you this way. Right. That's what I want to do, is to give you the ESPN version so you can make a better decision about whether you like it or not. Most people love notes. I mean, there's 1 in 500 people or 1 in 200 people that tell people like, okay, it doesn't suit everybody, but it suits most people. Mm. It's pretty good. I like it. I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. I mean, something I want to get into. I think it's something everybody should get into for sure. At least a little bit. It doesn't have to be the only thing you do, but I think just being the bank, anytime you're the bank, you just have so much more stability, power. I wouldn't say power, but it kind of is, because you're the one that's holding the note and you actually own everything that you're lending on. So like, you have the security of that. So like the worst thing that can happen, right, is like you're holding a note on a property, $100,000 note. The property's worth like 175. The person can't make their payments. You try to work with them to make the payments. They can't. You foreclose. Then you have a property that's worth 175,000. Like, yeah, time gets away. You lose a little bit of cash flow while you go through that process, but you come out of the end winning. And there's not many investments that you can do that with. There really isn't with secured notes. But yeah, thank you for coming on, Eddie, and especially taking the time to talk about this. I know you're a busy guy, and I'm going to have your information in the bio for everybody that's listening.
Okay.
You can reach out to Eddie. You can go to his website and stuff. And yeah, I appreciate you for coming on, Eddie.
Great to see you.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for listening.